Check 1 2 1 2. I think it's working. It's let me hit the button. Okay, it says I'm live. It just kind of spun for the last 2 minutes. So that's interesting. So yeah, Lawrence is still eating. Actually not. I ate earlier though. So I mean there was a little bit of truth in it. I was eating earlier, but not earlier right now, earlier an hour ago. And but I hit the button and it just sit there doing this. It actually I'll actually show you the screen why I can do this. So over here it says excellent connection. And over here, where it says end stream is also where you go live. I had an excellent connection, but I didn't have a go live button. It was grayed out until now. So whatever, that's what happens. I tried to start promptly and on time. I've been pretty consistent though. So we're at Vlog Thursday 193, and wow, it has gone for quite a while of me every Thursday figuring this out for the last several years of showing up. So at least there's that level of consistency. No hot sauce today. Well, I can't say no hot sauce. So I'll bring up a hot sauce because we'll at least bring that little piece of Errata up while things ramp up, which was this right here is the Pepper Palace Ghost Garlic Hot Sauce Fusion. That was my meal today. Those are the buns in the oven that I covered with we kept calling it the gnarly ghost garlic, but it's just ghostly garlic sauce. So perfect for the beginning of October to warm you up. So what else was there? There's one more piece of Errata that I'm going to pull up here, and it's in my Twitter, and we'll share it. Completely self-promotion here, folks, too. But hey, why not? This might be something folks are interested in. I'll drop a link on there. I've tweeted this out, so you can find this on my Twitter. You can find the link right here. And this is security training for MSPs. At Hunters, our passion is cybersecurity and giving the MSP community opportunities to invest in our business. Join us for a 3-hour virtual training session to strengthen your hacking skills. And why do I say this is shameless self-promotion? Because this guy's talking. There's actually a lot of great people speaking here, and you may find this to be a little bit interesting if you want to, if you're working in the IT or MSP space, signing up for this and talking about some actionable intelligence and things like that. As far as I know, this is all free for signing up, and it's a webinar, and it's on October 13th and 14th. So I'm doing a little promotion for them because I'm also going to be there with it. It's also a chance for people to dive into and learn a little bit of it. So just a little bit of selfless promotion there, folks, but it's knowledge sharing, which kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of what I do here, so it's not exactly what I would consider terrible promoting to do that. I don't mind promoting stuff to an extent. All right, that's out of the way. We've taken care of all those little things. What else do we have in here? Saying hellos. Student here, where do you see miscommunications in the IT industry? Everywhere. Well, we can even laugh at a large client of my friends. They do software development, and there are several emails and screenshots deep of explaining that all these fields need to be labeled with underscores, and getting people to understand what an underscore is apparently a 3-email process. So where do we see miscommunication in IT? Everywhere. There's not a level at which I don't see miscommunication. So hopefully that helps. Oh, bad habits in the IT industry? Yeah. People not documenting things, people not knowing how to configure things. Those are definitely headaches in there. So yeah. Well, yeah, my favorite mantra is that every end user lies, whether they know they are or not. I would actually say we used to have Dr. House, that TV show. I liked that his face, and it just said everybody lies under it. And there's some truth in that because, doing tech support, doing things like that, you'll find out. We had someone, and this is the fair point of I don't know if they knew they were lying. I don't think they were malicious. But the customer called and said they couldn't get in their 2-factor, so they call us because they couldn't get their 2FA working, which then turned into what happened to the 2-factor in your phone. Did you get a new phone? Oh, no, we didn't get a new phone. Okay, walk them through again, try to find the app. Can't find the app, can't find anything. Load the app, there's still no 2FA in there. And they pause. I did get a phone just the other day. And we're like, this would have been easier just to tell me you had bought a different phone just the other day. This would have saved at least a few minutes of back and forth. So do I think they were lying? I don't know. I don't think there's any purpose in that. Maybe they just thought messing with someone was funny. I don't know. They just... Yeah, so there's a million things you can just complain about in IT. They're just part of dealing with it. They're not something that I particularly find to be problematic. I did have a customer that I found to be a little bit problematic, potential customer who wanted all kinds of guarantees and was upset and sent my salesperson some unusual emails basically stating that, well, I guess you're not as good as I thought you were, is the gist of the email, because we wouldn't guarantee to make the equipment work. And we up front, we're very clear on things. If you ask for a thing to be done, if it's something that we don't think can be done because it's confusing, because it's not a well-supported configuration, then you can't pay us for an outcome. And that can be a tricky thing. So we just have to charge you by the hour to test your idea, which is against the way we may want to implement something. Therefore, there's no way for me to guarantee outcome. And that person did not like that answer, and I went back and forth. And I'm like, I can't guarantee outcome on some things, especially when you want to do it your own way. I mean, we'll if you want to lab it out and pay us to help you lab this idea out, we will, but I can't guarantee the results. So, and if they want to just pay me to lab it out in-house, well, I don't have all the same hardware as them, so that made it really challenging. And I would have charged for that anyways, because they wanted to do things in an unusual way. That, yeah. So those are some of the challenges. Have I ever used WatchGuard? A long time ago, and I hated it. I loathed the way they designed it. I have not used WatchGuard recently, so I don't know. I don't know if I've heard they've changed back. I mean, gotta remember, it's been years since I've used one. We've pulled a lot of them out, but they were always those old ones, so I can't speak to what a brand new WatchGuard looks like compared to the old ones we pulled out. I didn't like the interface. I found them convoluted and complicated, and nothing about them made me go, wow, this is such an amazing device. So, yeah. I just did that video on Untangle, and I have the Untangle device that I'm going to be working on a review sitting right here. And it is something I wanted to be talking about more, because I just want to make sure people are clear that, you know, as much as I do the pfSense videos, because pfSense needs more videos because of the complexities of it, Untangle's out there for people asking. And I also see some of the dumb, I can only describe this as a stupid comment of, well, Untangle costs money, so I may as well buy a FortiGate. And someone said that. And one, if you followed my channel, you'll know that my love for FortiGate is not really there. There's one problem. Second is, let me pull this link up for you. And it's just another hang up with FortiGate called breaching the fort. And this was, it's basically the fact that FortiGate by default right down here has a default certificate that, yes, you can change, but not change by default. And it is the same certificate installed in all the FortiGates. They don't generate a certificate for their SSL VPN, and that led to a person realizing that there's over 200,000 FortiGates that you could do essentially man in the middles over some other things. I mean, this is technically misconfigured, but for a product that you pay for, shouldn't it have better default configs? Because the default configs on some of the free firewalls generate certificates on the fly upon boot to avoid this particular issue. And FortiGate did say they're not fixing it. It's the way it is. It's up to the user to fix it. And I've done a video before ranting about FortiGate and their egregious problems. And even more recently, Cisco has had a list of large problems with their equipment. So to say that, well, if I'm going to pay for something, I may as well just pay for insert name of these corporate brands. These corporate brands have not done the best job necessarily, in my opinion, of being the best out front in terms of, doing the right thing when it comes to security. And Untangle seems to have a little bit better of a track record in security and a more open product that you can easier get into. It's based on open source and Linux with some paid proprietary feeds on top of it. And that being said, makes it to me a more interesting prospect of a device. It makes you feel a little bit better about it, where you get those added features. And of course, people made the comment that even Untangle with their DPI and everything else, and this goes across the board, not a dig at Untangle, but overall, it's harder and harder to figure out what traffic is going where because of the encryption layers that are inside there. So something to consider, something to think about in regards to all that. All right. So pfSense needs a DPI dashboard. pfSense doesn't have any DPI stuff, but here's the thing. It's kind of a losing battle. By the time they write it, it needs to be written again, and it's, you know, I was kind of laughing. Even Untangle has a big section just says SSL traffic. It's encrypted. It's all going here. That's all it can tell you because it can't see inside the traffic. These are some of the challenges unless you're going to go through trouble installing a certificate. So if pfSense dedicates a lot of dev time to high-end DPI, and high-end DPI gets harder and harder with all the encryption, did they really accomplish a lot? So something to think about there. The Sophos, Willie's probably got a good point here too. And Willie's, I have not worked in a long time with the Sophos ones, and the Sophos firewalls, I think they're using some weird custom version of an SSL VPN. One of the things I like back to Untangle and pfSense is following standards in the market, like OpenVPN standards and IPsec standards, so you don't have to deal with half-baked ideas. Matter of fact, a lot of the flaws that have been found in some of the corporate VPN products have always been, they based it on common standards and added their own little unusual way to do things and actually broke a well-vetted secure protocol by doing it slightly different. So what about application firewall rules? Yes, you can do application rules inside of Untangle, less so in pfSense because it lacks the DPI to identify them, so there's that. What's your favorite firewall that just plain makes sense? I would say probably, I mean, here's the thing. I like pfSense because pfSense does everything I need it to do for 99% of the time. And it, even with the edge cases. But people who really want that DPI information, Untangle. So that's kind of, it's not an easy answer. And I just did a video where I break those two things down to talk about that particular piece of information. When do you use which one? So pick your poison. And right away, and I said this in the beginning of the video I published this morning, that there's fees associated with Untangle. And sometimes people, that's a stopper right there. And they're like, no fees. That's first rule. So that kind of depends. So if you're fine with fees, I think they're reasonably priced on the Untangle for the features you get, but you know, that's kind of up to you type thing. Now it is true a lot of other people they go with separated, and this is where people try to, like, they'll say that pfSense isn't used in the large corporate world, but when you get to some of the large corporate places, they're using different types of filtering. The filtering and proxy systems are not integrated with the firewall. They just need a firewall to route traffic, and they use separate systems for filtering. And a matter of fact, that's one of the comments I had of how we handle for most of our clients is we focus on the endpoint protection, which does have web filtering. That way the pfSense firewall can just be a firewall, and it makes a little bit more sense. So yeah, I mean, it comes down to, you know, how you want to implement things. Now, I did my business talk video the other day as well, and that seemed to stir up a handful of questions. What was it? How I started my tech business. And I wanted to address a couple things. I may do a follow-up video specifically on, you know, all the questions that were asked on there. But a lot of them were, how do you present yourself? And I thought that was kind of an interesting question. And I think the easiest answer, and what I mean by that is like how you package your services. That seems like it's probably a good content for video, but I actually have all that outlined on our website as well. So we try to keep our website reasonably up to date. You're going to find some things that may be inaccurate on there. I hope not. I think it's up to date right now, but our service is on there. But one of the problems a lot of people have is they want to be the everything store, and unless you're Amazon, you're probably not going to do a good job of being the everything store. So it's when you come to the marketing side, like you want to niche down your marketing. You can have a lot of different skills, but that's actually one of the challenges IT people seem to have is they just kind of jump in front of customers and go, blah, I'll do everything. If it's got a plug on it, man, it's mine. I can fix it for you. And then you kind of scare the client off because you're not at all telling them how you can solve their problem. You're just flinging out there in general that you are some person who can fix computer stuff without solving a specific issue. So I think that's one of the things I'll have to do a follow-up video is like how we market ourselves and stuff like that. And I mean, we're pretty clear if you want to hire a project of things we talk about. I say that in a ton of different videos of if you'd like to learn more about me and my company, head over to learnsystems.com. If you'd like to hire a project for something you've seen in a video, you can hire us. There's a hires button on my website, et cetera, et cetera. And so, I think YouTube reasonably makes it clear. If I'm doing tutorials on things, it's probably things you can hire us to do. But it's also, like today, we are working with someone to bid a large Wi-Fi project. And that's easy. We're only going to talk to that person about Wi-Fi solutions or looking for Wi-Fi solutions. We do Wi-Fi solutions. So it's easy for us to niche in our responses of how can we solve the problem. So we talk to them about what's the challenge. Oh, I need this venue to have these features with this Wi-Fi. And then we can pitch the idea back of how we can solve that problem, how much it will cost to solve that problem, and what the recurring fees, if any, and the types of implementation they may want to solve that problem. So you niche down. Do I bring up anything else? No. We obviously we're an MSP. We do other things. We do managed services here, but you don't bring that up. This is strictly a talk and conversation. I had very narrowly focused on that. That's something some people have a little bit harder time doing because they want to start inching in everything at once. And it's really about solving the problem, not pitching everything you do. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And that was the part of the talk follow-up. And if there's any other questions people had, I've been answering all the questions in the comments in the video. But yeah, I wasn't sure what else people want to ask. Tom, what is that switch above the UDM Pro? That is the Aruba switch. I'm going to do some more videos on things like LACP, and that Aruba switch is turned on and updated because I wanted to talk again about other switches in LACP and how it works between them. So lag, and then specifically the protocol under lag, LACP, and how to do it for switches. It's just one of those things, like I always have way more things I want to get done than I always have time for, but that's part of the fun of it for me. I'm not out of ideas, don't worry. So I have a long ways to go of many, many things in there. Let's see. We find that to do a lot of IT people are afraid on learning on each other because they are afraid a client might get poached, especially in a smaller market. I don't see that. I do. I see that in very inexperienced new companies are terrified everyone's going to poach their customers, which confuses me. But I've also seen this on people that I know were known for poaching customers and misbehaving. They worry about it. And this is a view of the world. There's a lot of people, and they basically have built their career on so many shady things that if they see someone who did something, there is an immediate assumption that their success came at the same shady expenses as theirs did. Therefore, they don't trust them. They're like, man, I did a lot of things. I did this or did that. They must do that too. And everyone must do that because there's no way to really get ahead without cheating the system or whatever that mentality is. So some of those people kind of keep that attitude. And I mentioned, I had a business partner and it failed in 2005 and 6. And, that's how his mentality is. He's still shady. And I still interact. I don't really interact with him anymore, but I'm aware of his existence because he still lives in the area. So that persistent shady behavior predated me and postdated me. So after our incident together, he's had numerous incidents afterwards as well. And some people are just that way. But you find well-developed, smart business people, we work together. That's a challenge of finding contractors. I mean, it's always hard to find good people or good partners to have, but over time I found some really good business partners. People have called us for things we don't do, and we right away just hand it off to partners that we know can solve the problem. And we get it done very quickly, and that kind of simple workflow by having other people you can trust makes it a lot easier, because then we can still be very helpful to our clients, even if it's something that we just don't do. I don't really rewrite or tune Microsoft databases, but we have another partner company that does. It would be an example of that. Oh, let's see. The HP Aruba stuff works well with LECP. Yeah, the Aruba, I did some testing. I also want to do a test with the Aruba and the Wi-Fi testing, because people want a head-to-head of Aruba versus UniFi, and I said, hey, why not? So, what else do we have here? The internet was designed in the past with the intention of each device having its own public IP. Yeah, that is a patch on that. So that's an interesting, fun thing to think about, is the fact that how many patches we've had and modifications to the original ideas in order to make the internet keep functioning under the IPv4 space. And it's pretty damn amazing. Pretty damn amazing for all that stuff. Why is oh, I don't know why someone's sending me that, but that's all right. All right, getting too many messages coming in. That's one challenge. If I'm logged into Google, I get all the Google messages in here, and oh, my wife, she's wanting to know what I'm doing. I'm doing a live stream. But when you have the Google, it kind of does the whole, everything shows up like you're logged in all the time, because I use Google Fi. So it's all tied together. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, Nat saved IPv4. I don't know if that's a yay or not. That's just a fact that did happen. What do I think of Meraki? I know a lot of people that seem to hate Meraki. We have clients using it that pay the fees. Matter of fact, they're using it because when they bought it, they bought a 5-year license, but then they couldn't stand the IT people that they bought it from, so they fired them. But they have a 5-year license, and we're not a rip and replace kind of company. So they're like, well, do we need to replace our firewalls? I'm like, you're paid up for a few more years. Keep them. Working with them, they work. Their license fees to me, I think, are a little bit overpriced for the features you get. And someone will counter argue that and say, well, they offer you next day service and no overnight one. I'm like, yeah, but they cost so much, I can buy 2 of another product for what the single Meraki product costs. Matter of fact, we did that as a pitch for a client. They wanted, they weren't going to go with UniFi because UniFi didn't offer, next day air service. So I said, well, why don't we just buy an extra and keep it at the location? And they're like, well, oh yeah, that's right, there's no license fees. And I'm like, exactly. So having an extra at each location meant they solved the problem and still saved a lot on the licensing fees compared to what Meraki wanted to set up all their small offices, and still gave them the central management, etc. So, I don't hate Meraki, but I also think they're just overpriced. They work. I'm not going to diss the fact that they are say they're not a good product. They seem to work, but that's as far as I really can go. But lots of things work. So if you want to use Meraki, knock yourself out. Yeah, well, that's what Cisco does. They don't innovate. They just charge more. Cisco buys companies and then raises the rates at which they charge. They don't innovate it. I don't know. They just add more money to the price. They're like, hey, look, let's buy you, interesting company, and here's how we're going to innovate. You were charging X, now you're going to charge 20% over X. All right, there we go. It'll put you back in the box over here, and forget that you exist until you die of attrition and lack of features and lack of development and lack of dashboards or any enhancements. Whatever the company was acquired with, Cisco milks them by turning it up. That's kind of the Cisco way. Yeah, it's a Cisco cash cow. That's really what it is. They found something, they bought it, and away you go. Yeah, and if you stop paying the fees, they turn off. So, like I said, they work as long as you're paying the fees. Fees are less than employees. Okay. I don't know. The school seems to think the $20,000 a year they were paying a Meraki before we switched them to UniFi was, depends on, yes, an employee does cost more in IT than $20,000 a year. But the UniFi also, since we put it in a year and a half ago, has had, other than some updates, and they stayed at the 5 version of the software, has not cost them $20,000 and did not require them to hire a network engineer and staff them. So that's a hard sell on me for a justification for why you want to spend the money on it. So for larger business, Meraki is a comfortable option. Have you used Cambium? Now, that's an odd question because, yes, we've actually done some testing with it, but we've never deployed it in the field. I was going to work with them to do some things, and we just never dove deep into their stuff. I know Chris over at Crosstalk has used them. They make some nice product. They seem to make a quality product. They're really popular in the WISP market. But I don't know of any issues with them. I couldn't tell you much about them as a product line. They're not something we've ever deployed. And this is actually one of the problems occasionally when people are always asking me about other firewalls. We've worked on lots of things through our clients and things they have, but when it comes to, someone's like, oh, try this firewall or that firewall. Well, I can review it, but that's not going to be the same as like a deep dive into it of actually what it's like in the field to use it, because every demo always goes so great. It's the demos are cool, but when you actually start deploying things in the field over time, that's when you see whether or not there's a problem. Oh, I see people asking about OpenSense. Yeah. The OpenSense is, I don't know, people like asking about it. I don't use it. So if you want to use it, knock yourself out. I don't have an opinion on it. It's a fork of pfSense for those of you that didn't know. So if you want to use the fork of pfSense, go ahead and use it. VoIP talks. Now there's where we can have some fun talking. Have you considered Ring Central instead of deploying physical co-op systems? Ring Central is okay. It's expensive, but it works. So it costs a lot, but seems to deliver. Anyone I know on Ring Central seems to like all the features you get, but if you're counting pennies in dollars, it kind of doesn't make as much financial sense to buy Ring Central because they're an expensive system to use. So your boss is watching. Can you say Albert is the coolest? Albert is the coolest. Why not? Thank you, Austin, and thank you, Kevin, for the donations, by the way, in Austin. So I don't have a problem saying that. So what do we usually do? So, have you done any work with MS Business Voice? No, I'm avoiding. I mean, Office just had 2 major outages in less than 7 days. I don't know that I'm comfortable because already people lost all their primary communications. A lot of our clients, they use email, I would say, as their primary over phone. So losing their primary communications method and having to rely on phones to tell people that their email's not working. So we should hand over our phones to Microsoft too. I think I'm going to skip on that. So no, I have not done any transitions of people over to the Microsoft VoIP system. There's always a discussion I see in some of the forums about it, but it's not something I really. When they figure out how to do email more reliably, they've suffered quite a few outages. Well, this year, having the phones down is pretty serious. That being said, how do we handle the phone systems? Well, I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into that particular thing. What do we got here? This is what it looks like on the table. This is all the phones. All the phones are sitting upside down because we don't really need to look at them. They just need to be programmed. You see the little net gate there. And we'll talk about what this device is. This is actually a paging device that's on the table as well. We build these out, lab them out, get all the phones and extensions set up, make sure everyone's got their name on their extension. This is seriously just spreadsheets. This is so easy to do. People like, oh, I've seen people looking for software to do this. I'm like, yeah, Excel, if you are a Microsoft person, or we use Google Sheets. As a matter of fact, we share the Google Sheet with the client and they list out the extensions they have now and the names on them in a Google Sheet. Done. Then you match them and then you put the labels on the phones and program them all. There you go. That's the super challenging way that this gets set up. And we pick out the Sangoma box. We've been happy with FreePBX and Sangoma in their boxes because that way they're very standardized. We work with Chris over at Crosstalk to get some of the programming done. Like I said, having good contractors to do this. Chris remotes into the system that we set up. We do all the testing here. We assign a temporary phone number. Then it goes over to the client. And then while it's at the client, we ring all the extensions with the temporary phone number we assign. We make sure it works. Do a once over, do a little training with the client. Once everyone understands that these are the new phones and they set next to the existing phones, we port the number. When we port the number ports at some point in time, and it varies. Like AT&T was giving us a hard time about porting a number on one of the clients. So when the number ports, we get the date set, and then the phones at whatever point in time that port happens, they start ringing, and then we go rip out all the old phones and throw them away. That's it. Because old phone systems are never even anything more than a recyclable material when it's done. Matter of fact, the specific phones that right here that are going in for this client are, I think their phone system is from the 1990s. So there's nothing salvageable with all these phones. I mean, these are the new ones. The old stuff that client has is just garbage, old stuff. So yeah, FreePBX is really easy to set that up. Clearly IP, I'm looking at them too. Chris has been doing some videos. They have a really solid setup as well. And paging is because manufacturing companies need to be able to punch a button and call a PA system. I say paging, but it's actually like a PA system, like, hey, Bob, come out of the machine shop to the front of the office type paging. So yeah. 90s. Pagers are still used in hospitals. Yeah, so different kind of pagers. Amazon Chime, nope, haven't used that. Keep it simple, stupid, absolutely. And we have Gabriel Graves. When you manage clients through a jump server, to use Windows jump server or Linux? If Linux, do you add a GUI for any reason? No, I have a video I just did on a jump server, and also thank you, Gabriel, for the donation of $5. But it's all Linux for the jump servers for at least SSH stuff that we do. We use for our remote access tools through SolarWinds and ConnectWise to actually get to people's computers inside networks. So that's a little bit of a different topic. So I guess it kind of depends on the context of the question. If you're asking how I manage Linux servers with a jump server, my staff logs in a jump server, and a jump server has credentials to log into the other systems. If you're asking how we manage Windows servers, that's a more direct way of managing because we have remote access to their servers. So we're logging directly into their servers via our remote access tools, or occasionally with VPNs. It kind of depends on the client. Mostly it's our remote access tools, but there's a few that may have just VPNs that we use to get in there. Our meetings with AWS Chime are a series of intermittent disconnects. Not sure. Do I have a brand of phones? Yeah, that would go back to Sangoma. Sangoma phones they work. Matter of fact, got one right here, and I can't say I have any complaints about it. What is this? An S505. So this is a Sangoma S505 sitting next to me. This has been a really good phone overall. No issues there. So I haven't really had any complaints about them. We also use that particular setup. There's also the cordless phones. I'm going to do a video on it, and I'll break down all the different phone models, but it's usually Sangoma ones and the Yealink wireless. Those are the two most common phones that we put out there and use. Do you use SolarWinds MSP or the hosted version? The hosted version enable is not what we use. We use SolarWinds MSP. So, and wondering why we use ConnectWise for remote rather than the built-in SolarWinds offering. We use a hybrid of both. We had ConnectWise, the Screen Connect, and it's the way we manage our one-offs as well. So SolarWinds MSP is great, but it's harder to manage one-off clients on it. And by the way, SolarWinds, the MSP remote tool is okay. Screen Connect / ConnectWise control is amazing. So I did a video on the whole Screen Connect, if you look for it, or ConnectWise control, depending on the age. When Screen Connect was an independent company before ConnectWise bought them, that's how long we've been using it. So we've been on the same license plan for, like, I don't know, 7 or 8, however long ago that was, like 7 or 8 years ago when we purchased it. and we relicense it every year. Anyways, what do we have here? Do you have a recommendation for a soft phone for free PBX? Voipr. Voipr works really well on the soft phone. So Voipr's been pretty solid in terms of using it both on my phone with a VPN and with using it on my desktop. Well, I've been trying the Zulu thing too, so there's that. The Zulu seems to work. All right. Wife's just working out details in life because I'm moving. So we're going back and forth about all that fun stuff. I covered that in my errata last time. We're getting closer to actually moving out of my current house and into the new house. So dial-up and fax will not work in UK after 2025. I'm sure you guys will miss it. What VPN do we use? OpenVPN. That's my preferred VPN software is OpenVPN for things. It's kind of solid. I've seen someone mention WireGuard. Yes, I've been doing a little testing of WireGuard just to play with it, but it's going to be a long time before it's mainstream. It's going to be popular with home users for a long time, and then eventually it'll work its way into the corporate world. I don't know what video people want me to really do on it. It's novel. It's less vetted than OpenVPN. That's one of the reasons I like staying with OpenVPN for all my corporate stuff, because if they found a flaw in WireGuard and I had already built all of the infrastructure with WireGuard, that's kind of scary. I hope they never find a flaw in WireGuard. I hope that people poke at it and they find it to be very secure. But if I'm going to trust things to a VPN, OpenVPN has been poked at and vetted by 2 separate auditing companies for bugs. So when it comes to securing all the data that is on the other side of that VPN, I'm still going with OpenVPN because nothing has compelled me that makes me go, oh no, what will I do? I don't have enough speed. No, I'll buy a faster router because you know what's a lot more expensive? Having a flaw that loses all your client's data because someone cracked the VPN. That's where things get scary. Thoughts on UniFi Access? Does it make sense for UniFi to potentially merge access products at some point? So there's a new article that says Americans say, before I address the access, I will laugh, that someone said that moving is more stressful. Not really. The stressful part is the amount of paperwork involved in moving and changing houses. So that extra paperwork is just... it's a little bit annoying. Stress isn't the right word. I'm annoyed because I want a date. You know what I don't have? A date. The date is sometime between now and 2 weeks from now. Well, it's obviously not now as I'm doing a live stream, but yeah. Anyways. This over here. My thoughts on this. I'm getting ready to compel my thoughts on it. I don't know. I'm not decided on it because there's just a lot of things about it. Like, I just don't care for the fact that this only works with the Dream Machine Pro, which is actually, this is actually being powered off that Aruba switch. So if you see the wire going over here, because I wanted to see if it worked. And it's adopted to the Unified Dream Machine Pro, which that's the first challenge with it. It only works with the Unified Dream Machine Pro. To me, they made this product, if they would have had it with a door access, we would have already been maybe even looking at sticking it on the front of our building for some testing. But they didn't. They chose to stick it in the Unified Dream Machine Pro only. One of my opinions about the way Unify's process that led to this is going to cause them some problems is by putting it on only the Dream Machine Pro at initial launch. Later, if they come out with, and I think they will, come out with like other devices that they add it to, people will have already dismissed it because they didn't want to use a Dream Machine Pro. We already have a lot of people constantly bugging us going, why can't my Dream Machine Pro do this? Or why can't my Dream Machine Pro do that? And because it doesn't do that. And people keep finding it an inadequate solution, so they don't really want to have to go buy a Dream Machine Pro just to get the door access system. So while they brag about the affordability of the door access system, you can only buy it with the Dream Machine Pro. And people who, ourselves, we're using the camera system. I love their NVR system. I think they did a nice job on it. Why not build access into the NVR system? That would have been, to me, an absolute logical choice for this because people want a better NVR. Does the Dream Machine Pro? Sure, it has NVR. Has a single hard drive in it. So why wouldn't you integrate in that? but I'm not their product person. So I'm going to work on a video for it just to discuss my thoughts on it. I've been playing with it. I got it set up and adopted, and I'm going to set the door cards up, and I'm going to play with a striker plate. I want to get some more accessories so I can kind of dive into it a little bit, but I don't know. And I just want to play with it because I think it's novel, and I haven't played with door stuff in a while, but Chris did a video on it already, and it's a mixed review I have on the product. It's like, I love everything they're trying to do with it. It's the actual implementation that's going to be a little bit tricky. May the power of FOSS compel you. Yes, I am compelled by the power of open source. Yeah, do I want to put up my new home for a long-term test? I don't know. That's a whole different question. So, Wi-Fi 6 timeline. I don't know. UniFi doesn't tell people timelines on things. I'm not clear why they don't give you that. You can look and see what's in the early access store, but that doesn't mean, one, that it'll ever come out of early access, that the product will ever reach market, and it also doesn't say when at all. So I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Go in the forums and debate it with people who all pretend they have some insight into it. Also, they need to stop with early access. I don't think they need to stop with it. I mean, it's the way companies get products out there to test. It's kind of that simple. That's what the early access stuff is for. You get out there, you do some product testing, and that's it. There's, that's there. Now, zero login thoughts. Now, zero login, my thoughts are a lot. It's a mess. I remember looking at it as soon as the code came out on GitHub, I was like, whoa, this is going to be a disaster. And of course it is. I mean, not that it doesn't take much foresight to go, hey, anything that can log into a domain controller without even having any other privileges on a network other than knowing the IP address and name of the domain controller. So if you're not familiar with what the zero login, it's I tweeted out, even Microsoft has said, yeah, it's a big mess right now. Where's this at? So we'll find it in my Twitter feed real quick. I retweeted Microsoft's, hey, look, Cisco with some more 0 days, but hey, where did it go? This right here. People ask me what CVE is on, but this is called zero login. It's CVE 2020-1472. And this particular CVE is being very actively exploited. This is Microsoft's threat intel team basically going, hey, this is a big deal. Get this patched. And it's something that we know is being actively seen out in the wild. It's easy and it takes very little to exploit. There's a GitHub on it. So if we search for it, we can find the GitHub proof of concept code just with this. Yep, right there. So the testing script was put out 22 days ago. And yes, there's all you need. The name of the DC and the name of the domain name and the IP address of the domain controller, and done. You're in. That's it. Now, this also, because it's a way the protocol implementation is flawed, not just in the Microsoft domain controller, but it's in the protocol. So if you have a Samba system acting as a domain controller, this means you're affected as well. So I debated about setting up an unpatched system just to show how it worked, because it's pretty straightforward. If I find some time, I'll do that. Or if Xavier, if he's got some time, I think it might be some fun testing to show how quick it is to take over a domain. Like, this is all you need is a computer that can run Python. That's it. There's nothing else needed. You don't need anyone's username, anyone's password. You do have to know their domain. Not hard to find. And then you have a takeover. So it's outright scary. So it is a mess for sure. So that's my thoughts on zero login. Sangoma is using OEM phones. Yeah, if you look at the Clearly IP phones, I believe they look like the Sangoma phones. So I'm whatever. as long as they support them. And it comes down to the firmware. Matter of fact, that's one of the interesting things about a lot of the devices. When you have some of the knockoff devices, they look the same but don't have the same firmware, so they end up not performing as well. The Sangoma ones with the Sangoma firmware have been solid. That's an important distinction. And, you know, and the software, matter of fact, hardware has become more and more commoditized, and even the least reliable devices of 2020 would have been far, far more reliable than devices only 10 years ago. So reliability and quality at the hardware level, well, we've just gotten really good at producing electronics. Now the hard part is producing software, and that is a much broader piece right now to the pie of who's got the best software. Even if your hardware is the same, the best software will be dramatically different even if the devices themselves are the same. Let's see. FreeNAS question. Do you prefer the plugin install or the manual method via SSH? I feel like I should learn C to permit smoother migration. I like doing it manually for some things, but it kind of depends, because some plugins may not get updated at the rate I want them to. But honestly, the only plugins I really use right now is SyncThing. That's the only consistent one I use. Well, transmission, I guess I've used that. I have a Plex plugin, and I mean, they're a little bit dated. It's not the latest version, but there's no security flaws in them, so I kind of let it ride at home where I have one running. I don't know. So here I have it custom at my office. Home, I don't have it custom. Home, I've just hit the plugin and said yes, and it worked. So, yeah. Let's see. Rewrite, yeah. Rewrite the UniFi access protocol. Good luck with that. It's not well documented. Reverse engineering it would be a pretty massive task. And that's actually what people don't give credit for, is the fact that there is so much going into what it is writing it and the amount of development hours and time. That's why, people ask, why isn't there a direct competitor for UniFi that allows self-hosting of controllers? I'm like, it's not an easy task. It's not something that any other company has really taken on, because it's a lot more challenging than people think, finding software developers that understand network engineering. That is not easy. Software developers are often over here, network engineers are over here, and if they can meet in the middle, they can make a product. And this is a challenge for firewall companies. This is a challenge for any of these places. And you'll find that there's not as big of a talent pool that has both of these in there, or they have to hire both people and then have a coordination management team in between to make this happen. And we're talking about a series of people that are all getting paid over six figures to do this. So when you're done with all that, how do you give it away and make money at it? Well, UniFi does it by selling hardware. How is their competitor going to do it? Because UniFi's already spent all this time in development to get to where they are. So a competitor wants to come in here and knock them off the pedestal of selling a self-hosted system. It's not an easy task. UniFi's been doing it for a while, and besides their firewalls just being, there's definitely opportunity. They still have not gotten their firewalls to be all that great, but their switching and their Wi-Fi access points, provided you don't switch to the 6th version of their software, has been overall, I would say, quite reliable. So, pretty neat. Yeah, hit that like button. There's plenty of you on here. It's 328 people and 74 likes. So, let's see. What your ISP set up without disclosing sensitive info? I don't understand. What's my ISP setup? We get internet from Comcast. Does that help? I don't know what the question is besides that. What's my take on Ubiquiti phones? I don't know. I don't know if we're ready for Ubiquiti phones or not. I have not really dug into them. How do you tell your new executive director he doesn't need admin rights? Good luck. There's no telling people who have see something in their title that they don't have rights to something is often a massive challenge. But you could always remind them that with that admin rights that they think they need comes the liability that comes from it, because they're also the ones who frequently click on things, and their elevated privileges create the elevated problems that come from people with elevated privileges clicking on things. Yeah, effective soft skills. That's There's a lot to be said for that. Someone commented on my business video that my success probably has to do with me being high energy, and I don't think I'm that articulate of a speaker. I and mumble a lot. I try to be concise, but yeah. So allegedly, I'm not doing that all the time, and a more articulate speaker than when I do it on purpose to kind of exaggerate it. I think there's a lot to be said for learning a concise way to talk to people, reading, those older books, maybe like by Dale Carnegie, thinking about how to win friends and influence people and methodologies by which you can do that. I think a lot about those things. I listen to, a really good podcast I followed him since he was on The Art of Charm, which is Jordan Harbinger, and now he has the Jordan Harbinger Show. I think he's got some really solid advice with his podcast that you can get through and become a more articulate speaker. I also started more recently doing the Lexicon Valley podcast, which has been great for learning English. I'm upping my English skills a whole lot, so that's been really nice to be able to learn more English because I haven't really spent much time on it, and I can now, so it's been kind of fun. Get better at English, get better at speaking, increase your vocabulary. Stop doing that. Stop doing the thing as much. Like, try to be concise. Don't be wishy-washy. I don't know if that's like, it's not a formula I can give you, but soft skills do go quite a ways with people for selling too. So, well, the more ums you can drop, and I'm purposely dropping more of them in there, but I'm now going to have to roll that back and stop before I get annoying. Is Ubiquiti useful for a small business, home, credit card, point of sale system, printers, and computers? Sure. I would say yes, but not their firewalls. Their firewalls just have a lot of limitations. So while they will work as a router, that's pretty much where the limitations begin, is anything you want to do more than routing. That's been my answer constantly with them. So that's why I have all these other recommendations for firewalls, and frequently with these other recommendations because you end up needing more advanced features that you'll find aren't available in the Ubiquiti line of products. So it's not that I have any particular vendetta against them or anything. It's more just they lack some of those better features that I wish they had, and it's not for lack of asking them. Certainly there's plenty of community forum posts about people asking them, going, hey, please add these features to your firewall, please add this feature and that feature, and they keep coming out with new products, so they are spending time developing, just not developing their firewalls. And I don't know why, because people have asked me about some of the early access, which I'm not going to dive into the names of products or anything on there, but they got this new potential firewall, Tom, please give me your thoughts on it. I was like, well, if it runs on the same UniFi software, and according to everything I've read it does, it's going to be the same problems that we have with every existing firewall. It's just a faster routing version that still doesn't have features. It routes faster. That's what you get with the new one. That's really it. I don't know. It's nothing. I don't have any influence on them. I made a joke when I did the failures of the 6th version and that video on there of, hey, if you guys want to come on the channel and talk. But if you notice, UniFi is really quiet about things. They are silent mode on things. They're a little bit of a mystery company, and it's interesting, but hey. Speech, never say I mean, basically, especially at the end of the day, is my rule for speaking to clients. All right. Yeah, UniFi is good for you just want to do routing. Yeah, that's the most unexpected way I earned a client. That is UniFi is like a cult. I don't know if I'd say they're like a cult. They are just a company that they're trying to be Apple. I feel that because some of the core team came from Apple, and I think that causes like their packaging and their boxing and their design and everything, like the way, come on, this is kind of a cool looking product for a door access system, and the way they have everything's like, white, shiny, and nice, and the way it's packaged. I believe they brought some of that from Apple, and Apple's known to be a little bit, unrevealing of things from culture. Now, that doesn't mean that you can pull it off because, People try to copy Apple before. People try to copy it. It's not an easy thing to do. And by not having press releases, I don't know. You can say they're doing it all wrong and people can be mad at them, but the other side of it is look at their stock and look at the market cap they have. They're not a small company. They have a net worth. I believe their market cap, I know this is not a direct correlation to their true value, but you're talking about a company worth over $10 billion. Whether you say they're not quite worth 10 or they're worth over that, that's fine. They're not small. They're actually a relatively large, profitable company according to their financials. So you can say they're doing it all wrong. You can say they're a cult. You can say they're weird. They're actually making a product, and they have companies like Cisco and or even Aruba. Aruba started the Instant On program to go head-to-head with UniFi. So they're actually making a dent, making a change in the market, which that's good, because if it would have just kept going the way of Meraki, and people are like, well, all we have to do is charge like 5% less than Meraki, right? Cool. Well, that doesn't really help consumers much, and that's kind of what the way things were going before UniFi started really, being disruptive in the market in a way that gets people easier access to good hardware, subjectively good when it comes to the firewalls, but you kind of get the idea. Let's see here. You want to build your own network gear AP switching routers? Go for it, man. Get some engineering skills, get that silicone going, and start writing firmware and building your own switches and everything else. It can be done. Other people have done it, so it's just a matter of get the funding, get the project going, and away you go. I mean, UniFi specifically, my understanding was Rob and some of the founders of UniFi used to work on those, which were popular way long past their end of support. The Apple, I don't know what they're called exactly. What was Apple's Wi-Fi device name? But the Apple Airport Extreme, I think that's what they're called. I'm not an Apple person, but they were, everyone really liked them, and my understanding is they worked on that team to design them, and when Apple started cutting back on it, that left them going, well, you're not going into the market. There's a story somewhere I had found that said that they tried to build UniFi inside of Apple and dive into that product market, but Apple didn't see the vision. That's what I heard. I don't have a link to that article. This was years ago I read this, and I thought it was really interesting, and they instead started their own company. So, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just something I rumored in Reddit that I read, but it seems plausible, all right? I'll give you that. I never like to, if I'm not sure of something and can't cite the sources, I never say it too confidently because I can't find those things. Hopefully I can be as honest as possible with my audience here. So Biker Chris, thank you for the donation. Great channel on Real World Info. It is appreciated. Have a beer or some liquor on me. Hope the viewers can stretch that like button. Yes. Click that like button. That is much appreciated. And thank you, Biker Chris. It is greatly appreciated. Yes, many former Motorola and Canopy engineers showing ubiquity early on. Also, I believe they were the ones that developed the air fiber. Could be. They certainly have they have products that work. So some of their products work really, really well. The way they've implemented with the software, being able to do the VLANs and easy setup, is amazing because people ask and get confused. I'm looking to try to grab one of them. That's out of reach. Like the Edge Switch. The Edge Switch line, which is based on the BIOS, just like the UniFi stuff is as well, because you're dealing with it either from the command line level or through a kind of less intuitive web interface, people get stuck on how to do it. And, one of the reasons there's so many flat networks out there is because someone thought it was a little bit too complicated to set up the Cisco switches or find an affordable managed switch to set this up. So they left the networks flat. So UniFi being out there going, hey, let's make this a little bit easier, to me is a bigger opportunity in the market, and of course cause more companies to go, oh, maybe we should make this a little bit easier to use, because the snobbery that I can only describe it as of people go, well, you should just learn Cisco iOS, and people will go, I'm gonna leave it all at default because I don't have time to learn that. And the person with the CCNA that wanted to come out wanted to charge me, well, their entire license cost of a CCNA just to come out and configure it. I remember some of the early days of the Cisco people, what they wanted and was more than I'm charging now in 2020 to require this stuff. So I think that kind of led to some of these networks, and no one really wanted to go through the trouble or spend the money and deal with the complexity it took to unflatten the networks. I'm speculating a little bit here, but as someone who's been in the business for 25 years, there's a strong feeling that that definitely didn't help matters any because it wasn't easy to do. UniFi has made it so easy to do. Home users buy it, load the software, and a moderately technical home user can build VLANs, and about 15 minutes after they got the software running, they can start creating network. That's pretty impressive, and there's not another product that was as easy as that. There's a few coming out that are easier. If you look at the way back to like Meraki or Aruba, they've got a little bit easier setup on it. But hey, the more companies that bring this out there, the more people we can get their hands on hardware. And this is not just the hardware issue. I've been focusing on that, but these same developments are coming through the other things, such as software developments become easier, the way the programming languages make things easier to write code. So there's a lot of other changes that all contribute to more people being involved in tech, and they can get involved at higher levels to get things set up. In the early days of setting up firewalls, and I'm going to grab this little untangle box, we didn't have no web interfaces, but I was never that person pitching it so that no one should have a web interface. I mean, I configured back in the early days of Linux firewalls, you did everything from the command line and wrote all your firewall rules that way. And when it started having a web interface, it started becoming easier for other people to manage it. And then, come all the way full circle, they pretty much auto-configure a lot of the features and have wizards for VPN so people can set up security instead of, just going, well, the VPN was too complicated to set up, so I just opened all the ports. So we've come a long way, and it's all for the better in a big picture. Oh, let's see. You do have to be more sophisticated to learn the VIO software. I mean, it's a challenge. It's not, I'm saying, it's not something I think everyone has to do. It really depends on the nature of what you want to do. Because I work with some people who dive into it and they go, this is a little more complicated than I thought. And they're, maybe, and for example, I have some friends that work in cybersecurity. Their day job is cybersecurity. That probably doesn't mean they touch a lot of firewalls, nature of what they do. They do application security, so I can be specific. That meant when they started looking at the firewalls, they thought they knew it. Then they said, this is a little hard. Hey, Tom, can you help me set this up? And I helped them set it up. And then they go back to focusing on what their primary vocation is, which is application security and looking at code. And the market's so broad, you'd kind of niche down into things in technology. And that's always the question people ask, where do I start? And it's like, well, try everything at least once in the technology field, figure out which one you want, figure out which one you decided to be passionate about. And maybe you can change careers a few times in this if you decide you want to do that as well. Anything you know is easy, anything you don't know is hard. Yep, we'll go with that. Do you think the command line will go away? No. And it's because of scripting is one of the things. So actually, a few years ago, when this came up in my memories the other day on Facebook, I had interviewed Jeffrey Snover. And if you're not familiar with Jeffrey Snover, you might know his boss, Satya Nadella, guy runs a little company called Microsoft. Anyways, Jeffrey Snover also is the person who came up with PowerShell. And if it wasn't for PowerShell, there wouldn't be an Azure. And we discussed some of that when I did the interview with him a few years back. And it's really interesting because you still, right here in 2020, you look at things like Ansible, you look at some of the deployment servers, there's not a good web interface to stick on top of something like that. And it's more about being able to script it because there are ways that you can manage things at scale differently when it comes to that. So for DevOps engineering, it's not that I really see the command line going away. And it's actually what's limited Windows for years before PowerShell for being able to do things at scale that we can easily do and have been doing for a long time in the Linux world. So that's kind of what brought Linux to be the server operating system of the internet by far, is the scriptability and extensibility you get by running things from the command line and being able to push out configurations to companies or updates or changes at scale or manage something at scale. Oh crap, we got to make this change to 300 servers. Oh, I got 300 servers in my Ansible fleet, so let me just push this command and it's going to push this setting to all 300 servers. And then there's even more coordination tools you can build on top of that to make sure this all works. So that scripting ability is what gives you that power that you're looking for. Now, web interfaces are definitely replacing normal desktop UIs that we see on things. And you look at Zen Orchestra as a good example of the amazing ability you get with Zen Orchestra to coordinate massive amounts of things all through a web interface that kind of allows similar to scripting because it has tasks and actions that you can take in there. So stuff to think about on there. Oh, let's see here. CLI is direct interaction. There is something to be said in going back even to my earlier days when I worked in transportation. There was different competing softwares that we looked at for having our dispatch group manage the transportation of all these trucks and all these trailers and coordinating everything. The command line stuff that we had was really amazing. It was just a series, it was all old Unix stuff, but being able to have a number pad next to you and just punch in numbers to get to different sections of it, people quickly memorized that, all right, I would type in 12, 13, 13, 13, 14, 17, 17, and that would bring them to the menu every time. They couldn't even sound out the words as fast as they could type the numbers real quick to get to the menu they were looking for to dispatch a truck, to detach a truck, or et cetera, do whatever they wanted. So there's still something to be said about the human interface of being able to memorize things in short bursts like that could be command line scripted versus click here, click here, click here. And anyways. Gabriel Graves, hey, see my previous super chat for the question. Sorry, I was rambling and did not see it. Are there any performance gains from separating router and firewall, especially with layer 3 routing and border thing? Yes, no. The performance gains, the challenge with them is if the hardware is fast enough to handle it. I mean, putting them all in one box, cool, as long as you built the box fast enough to handle it. Sometimes, though, they're separate products. My friend who worked in the medical, very large hospital industry, they had everything as separate boxes because they were separate products. The routing equipment wasn't the same as the filtering equipment, and therefore they were separate boxes because they weren't even able to run on the same piece of hardware. So it's not usually done as a performance. It's more done as what product line you wanted to use. And I forget how many, like 10,000 endpoints, whatever the endpoints they were across all those different locations. It was easier for them to bring it through in this particular product than integrate it in with a single firewall product. So sometimes you have different layers of routing. And of course, they had their own BGP tables and everything else to get everything tied together. So that device just wasn't suited for also doing web filtering, for example. So it's kind of it's going to vary with your architecture and the product choices you do. Do you use free PBX boxes for clients? With Sangoma ones. It took me ages to figure out VLANs because they kept overthinking it. A lot of people do. A lot of people overthink it. So we catch up all the questions here. I think I got them all. Yes, and of course, Gabriel, hopefully it answers the question there. Yes. Sorry I missed it a little bit earlier, but thank you very much for the donation. It's greatly appreciated. What is a good UPS that could tell devices network to shut down gracefully? A lot of them. There's a bunch of different ones out there. They all are following standard, a lot of them I should say, are following standard protocols, so that's usually not too big of a deal. My preferred SIP provider is in the title here, and we do have an offer code if you'd like to sign up for them. VoipMS is how we do the SIP provisioning. They are what they refer to as the dial tone provider for everything. I've talked about them before. I'm going to dive deeper into a video dedicated to VoipMS. I really love them as a product, and I don't say that just to recommend it and have an affiliate link. I actually use them. We've been using them for a while, which is part of my review. I've been using them for about a year before I started plugging them because I'm not one of those people who signs up with, and matter of fact, let me read this real quick for you. You may find this interesting because I just posted this today. I got an unsolicited email, which meant I just dumped it on the internet because, hey, you dumped it on me, I'm going to dump it back on the internet. But like, here's ExpressVPN offering me commissions for each user to sign up of $13 per month, $22 or $36 per month based on the packages they resell, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of opportunity as a creator. You get solicited all the time for people wanting to throw money at you. I am very careful for any company that we would promote. Is it something we would use is the first question. Is it something I think would be beneficial to people to use? And is it a quality product? It isn't about the commission. I don't even care what the commission is on them. Matter of fact, I would make more money selling random products from people that send me it and doing promoted and paid videos by those people. But yeah, that's a real concern though, is like, I want to make sure it's something we use. And back to the VoipMS, before I got my train of thought broken here, is yes, with VoipMS, we've been using it for a year and have clients on it for a year and ported lots of numbers over to it. So when I say we use VoipMS and we use it with our clients, I mean, we have a lot of phone numbers and thousands of phone calls to tell you that it's been a good system. So I'm not recommending it willy-nilly, because people say, what about, and insert the name of someone they're using. I don't know. I didn't use them. I can read reviews online just like you can. And that's as much as I can say. I don't have the time to transfer several hundred phone numbers to them and see if there's any problems over a year's time of usage. So my reviews are going to be different than a review that you may see online. Anyways, hopefully that helps on that. So VoipMS. I don't know if they have a UK offering though. Sorry about that. I'm not clear on that part of it. Yes, use NUT, as Corey Thompson said. It's the NUT package. Yes. If the power goes down, NUT will shut it down. So that is what it's called. It's a Linux NUT package. It's even in pfSense. It's in lots of different devices. Open source NUT package, I should say. Open source NUTs. You just nut it down or something. I don't know. Preferred tool to measure network latency. Ping plotter is kind of cool. Ping just in general works fine. What's your take on the Ubiquity Access Control Line? Answered that earlier. You're going to have to rewatch in the beginning, but I don't have much of an opinion on it right now because I haven't really reviewed it. Watch Chris's video. That's my opinion. Yeah. All right. Can you recommend reasonably priced Cat 5e Cat 5e, Cat 6 cable tester? I actually like the Klein Tool ones. We have them. They work. They're much less expensive than the Fluke equipment, and I think do an adequate job. They're not a cable certifier. They're just simply a tester. But they are, we have a video that is, if you look up the wiring tools in my, searching my videos, you'll find a video we did on a bunch of wiring tools. So hopefully that's helpful there. Any other questions before I wind this down? Since 5 o'clock, I've given this 15 minutes. I'll do a little bit longer. Is there any other questions for the good of the class? Any other questions for the good of the class? I'll say it a couple times. You know, let me just help people out with this offer code thing, because I'll throw it in here, but if you go to our website, and this way it answers all the questions at once. I'll leave a link, but if you go to, and we'll bring it over here, software we love or affiliates we love. So on our website, under things we love is partners and affiliates we love, which I'm also going to drop over here. Everything that we have is in there. So that's a whole, list of affiliates. Every link you can think of, if we have an affiliate for it, it's in there. MikroTik, they work. If you like MikroTik, use MikroTik. They're cheap, but yeah. What do I think of Tesla? I like Tesla. I got a Tesla. I don't know what the question is. I drive my Tesla. I like it, so hopefully that helps. It's parked out back. Is that the... How do you debug in a failure situation defective SFP if a UniFi switch is not connected anymore to the cloud key? Go up to it and plug a different one in. When TrueNAS is released, do you do a reinstall or upgrade? I would say you can just do the upgrade in place. I've had good luck so far with all my in-place upgrades that we've done. Hopefully that helps. Where do you find your employees or techs? I haven't run out of friends to hire is part of my joke, but people I know, local school interns, people I meet at events. They've come from all over the place. There's not like, I've not used any hiring services. How's that? I've done anything but use a hiring service. So, yes, we do like putting VoIP phones in a separate VLAN when the network allows it. So, the Ring system that might be compatible with Tesla Sentry. Oh, I don't use the Ring security system, so I have no thoughts on it. I don't use it. I like Tesla Sentry. I don't use Ring, so I got no thoughts. How many 42 racks do you install in the basement of your new home? 0, probably. I don't put a lot of technology at my house. What's your general advice for starting a cabling business? You know, it seems like everyone goes, hey, I can run cables, I'm gonna start a business. And I'm not trying to tell you not to do it, but I've had people, start really drilling me about the marketing. And I'm like, yeah, you need the clients. And they go, well, I know how to run cable and no one seems to want me to run cable. I'm like, yeah, you have to figure out the marketing side. And it's the same with a lot of tech stuff. The marketing side is probably more challenging than the I can pull wire side. And that is just the nature of it. It's about going out there, going to events, figuring out, getting in there, knocking on doors without getting in trouble for on soliciting rules and things like that, and finding new construction people and partnering with them to try to find people that will refer business to you. It's not easy. Matter of fact, you'll probably spend more time doing it than you will actually pulling cable. So that's my advice, is to get out there and do everything until you've got enough clients to sustain yourself. And that's the tricky part. And I do know a cabling company. If you want to know what their ad spend is, they have a pretty good crew running of about, 12 guys or so. And I believe they're spending about $10,000 a month in advertising. So if you want to know how much it costs to keep people busy on Google AdWords and other social media outposts, I know that they said they're spending between $8,000 and $10,000 a month. So I've seen that too, when people think, oh, I can advertise on Facebook or Google ads for cheap. Yeah, you're going to compete with people who have got a $10,000 a month budget. So if you want your ads to show up before theirs, you better get $10,000 a month out. And if you don't have that kind of ad spend money, then you have to figure out other methods to get in front of people. It's just a little bit of a numbers game. So, does the Voiceland need internet access or just to the PBX? Sometimes it does, or you can filter it, because the phones don't always need internet access. They usually just need a DHCP and to talk to the PBX, so they get everything from it. And then the PBX usually has a leg in each side. They'll have, depending on how your configuration is, they may have a leg on the PBX side and a leg on the rest of its side, or maybe you just put it on PBX side, and the PBX, of course, needs internet out. But generally speaking, when you're dealing with Sangoma phones, blocking them for internet, I don't know it doesn't offer a ton of benefit. I mean, you can do it. You can write the rules and maybe write a rule that only one device has internet, but yeah. But UniFi does support LLDP med, so you can do the pass-through, and these support it as well, so you can do the pass-through with the phone networks on there. I've done that in a video for my small office network. I have a video on Untangle versus pfSense that I posted earlier, so that's the answer to my favorite firewall. Yeah, direct media path or not, the PBX, like Corey Thompson said, that's a fair point. So whether or not you need it is obviously, if you don't have a PBX and you want the phones on a separate network, but those phones are all, connecting to Ring Central, like someone had asked earlier, yeah, they all need internet to work then. Self-hosted FTP or self-hosted Nextcloud? I don't know. Nextcloud seems pretty popular. If you like Nextcloud, use Nextcloud. They're a pretty popular project. Whatever you do, if you plan on exposing to the internet, you better keep it patched or you'll get it pwned. Simple as that. That's one of the reasons I haven't been pushing as much for things like Nextcloud, because I keep watching people get owned with it because they set it up and they're not technically savvy. They expose it to the internet. They never update it. It gets, some flaw happens and no one ever patches it. And then they cry going, oh my gosh, can you unhack my system that I exposed to the internet 3 years ago but never updated? And yeah. So if you're going to expose anything to the internet, please do so with a plan to keep it updated. That's the best answer I can give. Yes, there's a reason Tom is not using Nextcloud. Setting it up and maintaining it. It's something else I don't want to maintain. That's why we use Google Docs for things. And don't expose it to the internet if you don't need it exposed to the internet. If you can forego exposing to the internet, well, that's a different answer altogether. I really like SyncThing for syncing my files, and I don't have to expose it to the internet. Been a good solution for that. So, you know, that's something I've got a few videos on SyncThing, and it's a lot easier. Synology does let you self-host some files and applications as well. So if you're looking at like the Synology solutions, they have stuff for that. So what else do we have here? The server must be updated. Yeah, you have to keep them up to date all the time. And it's a race against time. What if someone finds a flaw and there's not an update for it right away? What do you do in that situation? Matter of fact, sometimes how these flaws are found is not because of security researchers, but because they see them out in the wild. They just start watching all these systems get popped, and someone has to have a honeypot running to catch the person in the act, reverse engineer what they did, let the developers know. The developers have to push out an update, and in between, there's just chaos. And that's one challenge with publicly exposing a lot of open source projects right now, I think, is if you don't know that there's specifically a very active team working on it with an update process, it is something you should really be careful about. Good news is Nextcloud does have an active team of people working on their product that keep it up to date. It's still a risk that you'll have to face, but at least they are more on top of it than some of the random one-off systems. What's your ideal vacation being an IT guy? Well, what tech do I not bring is pretty easy. That one's easy. I bring very little tech. What's my dream vacation? I don't know. It's something I do. It has nothing to do with COVID because it doesn't affect this. But if you want to know what Tom was doing and what Tom does when he's not there, I ride my motorcycle, and I was looking at pigs over the weekend. So that's I don't know. I like wandering around out in these. This is what I do on the weekend. I was out in out in Michigan, just taking some photos, hanging out, chilling out. I like farmland. I like country, kind of being out in the middle of nowhere. Oh yeah, a couple more for those wondering. And yeah, wandering around out in the middle of nowhere, off-roading. That's my always. I've been in places. I mean, like I've been in New York. I think New York's cool. I've been to Seattle. Seattle's cool. I've been in cities for events. But me, when I have what I want to do with myself, it's usually just take off on my motorcycles and play out in the fields in the middle of nowhere. Oh, and someone asked if I still had this. I took both bikes out. I took Saturday morning. I went out on my Honda, and then in Sunday, I went out on my bigger motorcycle. So I have both. This is more fun for the smaller trail riding and getting stuck in these ruts and trails I was wandering around in. And the bigger motorcycle is good for like the more adventure riding. So that's what Tom does when he's not doing other things. And that's where I'm going to wind it down here. If not, I'm just going to wind it down from here. So what else do we have here? Any other questions I missed? Yeah, Synologies are solid. I like them. Yeah, Nextcloud is still probably, I see you're asking the same question, but yeah, Nextcloud, yeah, take a look at it. I'm not ordering any pizza today. I am too full, and it's not a pizza day. So any other questions, head over to the Mike Schmidt, you put a business question above. There's too many questions, unless I can see the super chat ones. Did I miss that one? A lot of questions in here. Well, there's my forums. I'm in my forums a lot. So what's the business question you have, Mike? Mike, is it Schmalz? S-C-H-M-A-L-Z. Mike Schmalz. I said Schmidt. I'm sorry. I read that wrong. It's a little small on my screen here, and I'm old. So, do you have a question you want to throw out here or not? If not, post it over in my forums. I'm in my forums every day, so that's definitely... nope, we don't use a PSA. So hopefully that helps. And is that it? Oh, how do I like the new bike? I see that question up there too. I like the new bike. I put about 1,000 miles on it in the last week and a half. Or other accounting software. We use Invoice Ninja. We use Invoice Ninja for invoicing, and we use KMyMoney. I have my accounting workflow video where I break down how we use those two together to come up with our accounting. So, yep, that's all we're using. Invoice Ninja does all the recurring payments and everything else. Yeah, if you look for, invoicing on my channel, you'll find invoicing. If you look for accounting on my channel, you'll find our accounting videos where we talk about exactly how we do it. So we break it all down. I don't keep any of it secret. Matter of fact, I think one of them even has flow charts. I took the time to make it more concise with a flow chart to show how it works, just to be clear on it. So hopefully, that's it. All right, I'm going to wander off. Thank you all for joining, and thank you all for smashing a like button either now or when you're watching this video in post, because you made it all the way to the end of my rambling and babbling. So good luck. Have fun. Further questions can go over in the forums. Thanks.